Greetings, pen pals. Today we have the Rotring 600. Now this is a pen that has not been made in quite a few years. The Rotring 600 fountain pen has not been made in quite a few years. The Rotring makes other pens and pencils in the 600 line, which we'll get to in a few minutes. So the Rotring 600 fountain pen was made by Rotring in Germany back when Rotring was a German company that made pens in Germany. So Rotring, the German company, folded a few years ago. The name was bought by an American conglomerate who now manufactures Rotring branded writing instruments in Japan. So that's sort of the history. They no longer are made in Germany, but Rotring is a German name. Rotring means simply red ring in German, and all the Rotring writing instruments, at least all the ones that I've seen, regardless of type, somewhere on them have a red ring like this. So for example, here's some other Rotring products. This is called a Rotring Tiki. This is a pretty nice, clicky, fairly inexpensive ballpoint pen, but as you can see, it does have a red ring to be found on it. Similarly, this is the Rotring Freeway, which is actually a very, very nice rollerball, which is currently made by Rotring. And again, you can see a red ring featuring somewhere on the writing instrument. In terms of the 600, it was a full product line: rollerball, fountain pen, ballpoint pen, pencil, maybe even had a couple others. I believe there's a multi-pen in there somewhere as well. In terms of rarity, I believe right now, probably the rarest of them all is the rollerball. They stopped making the rollerball around the same time they stopped making the fountain pen. They have not re-released either the fountain pen or the rollerball, so they're not made anymore. And the rollerball is pretty rare and fairly expensive for a rollerball. If you want to buy one on the secondary market, you could look it up. A Rotring 600 rollerball goes for many hundreds of dollars. I do not own one. Style-wise, it's very similar to the fountain pen as well. And so let's talk about this pen. It is a solid metal pen. Weighs 43 grams, so it's got a fair amount of heft to it. Not a huge pen. Here it is compared to a Lamy Safari and a Pilot Metropolitan, so you can see size-wise it is pretty much right up aligned with these guys. It is a hexagonal barrel, so which you can see when you pull off the cap, and it is a pull-off cap. But even though it's a pull-off cap, it does force the alignment of the facets on the cap and the barrel. It's got little sort of cogs notched in here, so you do have to have, if you try to, you can't really force this on if it's misaligned. It's got to line up, and then it will click into place. It's got a fairly nice, very substantial, very functional clip. The clip is removable, and the clip just simply says Rotring on it. This is, as you can see, a very technical looking pen. That's kind of what Rotring was renowned for. The finials on the top and bottom have fairly heavy knurling, and they kind of complement each other and match each other, except the one on the top of the cap, of course, does have the classic red ring for Rotring, and it does have the Rotring 600 branding on the side of the cap, which looks pretty nice. Now it's got a cool little feature here. This is an indicator that you can set to tell it what type of nib you have in it. So mine has a medium nib, so I have it set to medium. If I was to replace the nib with a fine nib, I would replace it with, I would turn that to where it says fine. You can imagine the point is, if you're like a draftsman or a technical professional having a whole line of these on your desks, the way to distinguish which one is which is through that indicator there. This is a feature that carries through to other instruments. So for example, this is a Rotring 600 0.7 millimeter pencil. This is a new one, well, new-ish. I mean, it's a few years old, but my point is it's not a vintage one, and this is currently still made, but it does have the same sort of indicator here. You can turn it, and what this does is it tells you what type of lead you have in the pencil. So I have type 2B lead in here, so I have it set to 2B, but you can set it through all the different types of lead that there are. Now the ballpoint doesn't have that. This is a modern Rotring 600 ballpoint. It's just a clicky ballpoint. The older ones had a cool selector where you can turn it and it would show you the how fine the point was on the ballpoint, which is nice. But they all carry through with the similar style. Very, very heavy knurling and really, really nicely made. This is a nicely made ballpoint, by the way. One little tip with higher end ballpoints. This one has 2 springs, and the way you can tell it has 2 springs is when you extend the tip on the ballpoint, as you can see, it still has springiness in the in the push button, it's not all floppy when the nib's extended, meaning there's two springs. There's one up here to drive the button and another one down here to drive the refill. Just a nice little design detail. I mean, there are some pretty expensive ballpoint pens that don't have that feature, but it is, I think, a nice little touch that this one has. Anyway, back to our fountain pen, which is what we're talking about today. As I said, it's a pull to uncap pen. It does post. Now, for posting, it doesn't have the little cog, so you could misalign it when posting, which is nice. You don't have to mess around with it too much when you're posting. It is pretty darn heavy, but I kind of like the way it looks. It's got this really great section. Again, really nice sort of world-class level, really precisely made knurling there. Nice long tapered section, really comfortable to hold. I could see someone spending hours and hours and days using this pen. This is a really, really nice, comfortable pen. The nib is unspectacular. It's a somewhat Lamy style nib, although obviously it's not interchangeable with Lamy nibs. It's unbranded, but it does have an M for medium stamped on the side, and it has an otherwise uninspiring plastic feed. In terms of filling system of this pen, it is cartridge converter, and it does use standard international cartridges and converters. And that is our Rotring 600. So let's just look at the family while we're at it. In other words, this is the ballpoint and the pencil, and here's the fountain pen. We got them all lined up here. As you can see, they're very similar style to each other and just about the same size. I will point out, though, however, this is a vintage one made in Germany. These are fairly modern ones made in the last few years that are made by the new Rotring company, if you will, in Japan. In terms of materials, I believe what we're looking at is painted brass in both the cases of this and this. This is painted brass, I believe, as well. There may be some steel in here. It's hard for me to tell. I'm not sure. I believe, obviously, this piece here is steel, but I believe the inside of the barrel, and the threads inside the barrel is steel, but I believe the barrel itself is brass. Again, I might stand corrected there, but that is what it seems like to me. But again, really, really precision made pen, very sort of technical looking pen, etc. And I really like it quite a bit. Regardless of what pen I'm using on my desk for that day, and I rotate through all the pens in my collection on a fairly regular basis. Not all the pens in my collection. I rotate through the pens that have inked in my collection on a fairly regular basis to use a different pen every day. This pen actually stays on my desk because I do keep it inked with black ink, and every once in a while you just need black ink regardless of what pen you're currently using. So I always want to keep a pen handy that has black ink in it, and because I might be using a kind of an oddball color that day, this is the pen that I keep on my desk with black ink at all times. So if that might say something right there, but I really like this pen. It's a great pen, and I like it quite a bit. But as we say, pens were meant to write, and of course you want to see how this pen writes. I'm going to show you that right now. All right, like we said, this pen is a Rotring. Model 600, and this has a medium nib in steel, and this flows pretty good. I'd say it's about average when it comes to wetness, but it's got a good flow to it. It's pretty smooth. It's quite a reliable writer. I didn't point this out before, but the cap does have a nice liner in it, so it keeps the ink pen from drying out. So it really is a kind of a first time, every time kind of writing pen. Writes really, really well, and I like it. And I'd say it's an accurately described medium. So it's definitely correctly labeled when they call it a medium. But that's about all I have to say about this particular pen. Nice pen. I like it quite a bit. And speaking of liking, one thing that would be awesome is if all of you folks out there could please like, comment, share, and subscribe. That would be fantastic and very much appreciated. That's about all I have to say about this Rotring 600 pen. Great pen. I've had this for a few years, like it quite a bit, and I've been generally pretty happy with it. Let's talk about this ink now for just a minute. All right, this is definitely one of the blacker black inks that I have. This is Noodler's Heart of Darkness. If I had to pick a blackest black, it would probably be Aurora Black, but this is a very, very close second, and it's a fraction of the price. Aurora Black's quite an expensive ink, actually, and this is actually a very, very reasonably priced ink, actually one of the least expensive inks out there. Comes in a big, big 4.5 ounce bottle with an eyedropper in it, so good value here. But anyway, it's a very, very black ink. Again, almost as black as the Aurora Black. Here it is compared to Iroshizuku Takasumi. It's probably a tiny bit blacker than that. Definitely, people say Noodler's X-Feather might be one of the blackest blacks out there. It's comparable in my mind. I think Heart of Darkness might even be a tiny bit blacker. It is definitely blacker than Noodler's Old Manhattan, which is definitely a lighter shade of black, but again, also a nice ink. Not a common one. This is Old Manhattan's exclusive to one particular pen shop in New York, so you can't just get this everywhere. And it is definitely blacker than Mont Blanc Mystery Black. Mont Blanc Mystery Black is actually a very, very dark purple, so I guess the mystery is why they call it black. But that is Noodler's Heart of Darkness. And it's a nice ink. I like it quite a bit. Again, it flows well, it writes well. It's a really, really nice ink. One thing that that you might want to consider doing is, if you buy it in the big 4.5 ounce bottle, is transfer it into one of these vials. So unless you're using it in an eyedropper pen, those big 4.5 ounce bottles are really unusable. You can't really fill a pen directly from them, but just use the eyedropper, transfer it to one of these little sample vials, and you are good to go from that point onwards. Speaking of good to go, I think we are good to go from this video. As always, I thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching it, because I certainly enjoyed making it. And as always, until we see each other again, have a great day. Bye-bye.